Hello. How'd you like that Sammy Ingram video yesterday? Are you ready for more, Sammy? Um, we're gonna do some of Joseph Murphy's helpful pointers today. I think we're gonna get to it today, but I do actually want to address the video I did yesterday on Sammy, or on Sammy. I assumed that a lot of people wouldn't understand what I was saying, and I made the video for those of you who do understand what I'm saying with it. If you watch the video again, you'll probably see that video is actually not really about Sammy Ingram as much as it is about Coué's philosophy and line about how whatever we think and say, think to ourselves, auto-suggest to ourselves rapidly and persistently comes to pass. And that's really aligns with what Sammy talks about, and she talks about it brilliantly. And I just thought it would be worth it to spend a couple minutes talking about, obviously I love clickbait titles. So Sammy Ingram is a genius is a clickbait title, right? And, even though I love clickbait titles, I can't compare to some of the great clickbait titleists on these law of attraction channels. I mean, it's embarrassing, holy cow. But no, I do think Sammy is a genius in certain ways in regards to this stuff. I really do. And I'm going to link above again to that video I did back in May. It's, I think, just called Regurgitated Neville. And Sammy's not Regurgitated Neville. It's worth looking at that video if you have questions about what I was talking about yesterday in terms of Sammy being a genius. Because what I've found, I know on this channel I sound very critical of most LOA teachers teaching on YouTube. And that's because I am, in the sense that from what I've seen, I just don't think many of them are adding anything to the discussion in terms of actually, they can motivate you, which is fine, and that's great, and they can inspire you, which is great. But in terms of actually exploring subtleties of this stuff, in helping you navigate those subtleties and the inevitable failures and seeming setbacks that occur when you're trying to feel better and manifest a better life, there's very few teachers I've encountered in YouTube that do that well. And that's really been underscored for me more since I've done that video. Actually, when I did that video was just when I actually didn't know Maggie then when I did that video. I just was familiar with her videos, and getting to know Maggie and talking to her more about the LOA scene, and then seeing how the Neville Reddit was moderated and is moderated, and the kind of application that people teach each other about Neville and other popular LOA teachers these days, it makes no sense to me, because it's just, it doesn't really add much to the pot. So a lot of these LOA YouTubers are totally fine. It's just, in my opinion, they're not adding anything significant to the pot. Sammy adds something significant to the pot, especially if you are at all interested in autosuggestion or affirmations. I don't agree with a ton of what she says. There's a bunch of stuff that Sammy Ingram says that I'm like, what the F are you talking about? Right? Our sensibilities do not align in all likelihood when it comes to the majority of this LOA stuff. But unlike most LOA YouTubers, she is saying something very intelligent, and I would say making a genius point about what you are saying to yourself. In other words, what you're thinking to yourself consistently is going to manifest, at least in some significant energetic way, if not tangibly in your external world. And when I say energetically, it's going to make you feel better if what you're thinking or saying to yourself constantly is positive. It's going to change your life. And Sammy explains that one concept extremely well. Extremely well. And she explains some other things very, very well as well as that. But just that one thing, even though it's just one thing, it's genius. So she is a genius in that way. And this is going to get into what we're going to talk about with Joseph Murphy's helpful pointers. You only have to take one thing from a teaching, and you can, when it comes to this LOA stuff, you don't have to agree with everything, right? To appreciate what someone is saying. And, these LOA YouTubers, I'm critical of them a lot of the time because I think they mislead people in terms of making it seem too easy, too simple, and it's not like that for most of us in reality. But you can learn stuff even from them. But learning subtle things on YouTube from LOA teachers talking about it is somewhat rare from what I've seen in my experience. There are some people, I obviously talked about Sammy, obviously Maggie. Maggie's if you are trying to understand Neville better, watch Maggie's YouTube channel, okay? Because she talks about these Neville concepts in such a down-to-earth and superior way than anybody else I've seen on YouTube. It's like not even close. So, look at Maggie's channel for like subtle, consistently interesting explanations that, probably do align with a lot of your sensibilities. And, obviously you've got like the OG at this point, like Joseph Rodriguez consistently makes great videos about all this stuff and has for years. And there's other people too, but like those are just three people who clearly stand out. They consistently say interesting things about the law of attraction, the law of assumption, which is the same fucking thing. It's no different, just different terms. So something else I wanted to mention, and then we're going to get into the helpful pointers, is like, I wrote this book back in 2021, The Law of Attraction Simplified. I think it's free on Kindle, I'm pretty sure, if you have Kindle Unlimited. Otherwise, I think currently it's like $1. Read that book if you haven't already read it, because all the stuff I talk about on this channel and on my podcast is written about, and I speak about it in that book in a slightly different but probably clearer way than I do on this channel. Like The Law of Attraction Simplified, like that's a very good book. Okay, if you like this channel, you should read that book. There's going to be an audiobook version. We're working on it. I'm still not sure if I'm going to just do the audiobook version myself or have my man in Ireland, Mark Manning, who I love, do it, who usually does my audiobooks. But in The Law of Attraction Simplified, I'm going to read this very quick excerpt. I say it's worth remembering that this is a very direct approach and a different one than we're used to. I'm just talking in terms of law of attraction in general. So use whatever serves you well, lean on that, and disregard everything else. That goes for everything with the law of attraction, including this book. Don't think anything I share with you is that good advice. Nothing is that good advice. Actually, I find that even the very best spiritual advice I've ever heard, especially dealing with LOA, is only like 20% applicable in my real life. Advice 20% applicable to your life is great. That's profoundly life-altering. And even if advice is only like 5% applicable to your situation, it can still be life-changing. But that also means that the vast majority of advice you hear, even the best advice, is not relevant to your situation. Therefore, I think it makes sense to use the small gems of wisdom you find spread across so many of these great law of attraction teachings, there are so many of them, while gradually forgetting everything else you read and hear about LOA. Okay? That's from The Law of Attraction Simplified. Read that book, but keep that in mind. Okay? We're just looking for a few things that work for us. A few things that are relevant. Sammy says a bunch of shit, but she says a few things that are highly relevant to me, and I have a feeling they're probably highly relevant to you too. But that's all cool, Like, it's cool. Everybody spouts a bunch of bullshit, but some people say some very interesting things that you can learn from in this field, and that's what it's all about, and that's what these helpful pointers we're going to go over today from Joseph Murphy. touch upon a little bit too. We're just going to read two. This is helpful pointer number 6 from Harmonious Human Relations from the Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Murphy writes, you are the only thinker in your world. You are responsible for the way you think about the other. Remember, the other person is not responsible for the way you think about him. Your thoughts are reproduced. How are you thinking now about the other fellow? So if I'm saying, oh, this person's full of shit, I'm also saying that I'm full of shit in a way, right? I have to recognize that when I'm critical. This is why, generally speaking, you probably want to be kind of benevolent, chill, and nice when you talk to people and about people. Because it reflects who you are. It reflects what you are all about. And this is the pointer that I think really ties in to what we were just discussing about these different, being able to agree and disagree with people. Point 7 here. Become emotionally mature and permit other people to differ from you. They have a perfect right to disagree with you, and you have the same freedom to disagree with them. You can disagree without being disagreeable. You can disagree without being disagreeable. In my real life, I'm not getting into pissing contests with people. If someone has a different opinion than me, okay. And I can say some critical words. Like, that's what I do in this channel. I say some critical things about some stuff because I think there's a point to what I'm saying, to my criticism. But then that's it. It's done. It's done. And we all can get better at doing this, better and better, as Kuei would say, Become emotionally mature and permit other people to differ from you. It's okay to be different from each other. It's okay not to agree on most things. There's some things we probably can agree on. And there are some things that you're going to find that work well for you in these law of attraction teachings. And some teachers that work really effectively what they're saying for your life. And even if the majority of what they're saying is not relevant, that's perfectly okay. We can agree to disagree on most points and still benefit from those points that we do agree upon with each other. I hope this was helpful.